So welcome back, everyone, to session 2 of our 10-week series. It's lovely to see so many familiar faces from long ago and not so long ago, and new faces. It's really lovely. So last week we talked a little bit about the koshas, the different layers of the self. We had a bit of an overview of the fact that we have an embodied self, sort of our physical layer. We have an affective or energetic self, our breath layer, and we have this cognitive, emotional, or verbal self, which we call our mind layer. We have a decentered, wise, intuitive self, and then we have this self that is joyful and blissful, and very connected to everything that's out there. And so we will continue to work with those 5 layers throughout the entire 10 weeks. Today we will take a look at how those layers are nourished through connection. So we are literally hardwired when we are born to create connection with caretakers in our world, because as humans we're born very vulnerable and we really can't survive without caretaking. And so it's not surprising that we're hardwired to draw empathy and to draw caretaking behaviors from loving adults in our environment. Now we often have the privilege of that, not everybody does. And so if you've had that privilege of having caring adults in your life, that definitely gave you a good, healthy head start on life. And what helps the adults, the caretaking people in your environment when you're born so vulnerably be present for you is a basic set of principles that in yoga we call the yamas, or the guidelines for ethical living. These are capabilities we have as humans that help us build connection, that help us build relationships that are supportive, empathic, caring, and ethical. And so today we will explore that sense of connection and how it contributes to the shaping of those 5 layers of the self through the expression of the yamas, of the principles for ethical living. And so I will go through them really quickly, and then I'll keep repeating them throughout class so you'll get a better sense of them as we move along. The first ethical principle, and these are not prescriptions or proscriptions, these are aspirations. So from the way of thinking of yogis, one aspiration we have is to choose as often as we can non-harming thoughts, non-harming speech, non-harming actions, peaceful speech, caring speech. And so this is non-harming as a principle, and it's the first building block of an ethical lifestyle that fosters connection and caring. The second principle or aspiration is an aspiration for honesty, for truthfulness, for being truthful with others and being truthful with ourselves. So all of these aspirations, these ethical principles, reverberate throughout all of your koshas, and they nurture all of the koshas of the people with whom you interact. And we will keep talking about this. The third principle or aspiration is non-stealing. This is about not taking what is not freely offered to you. It's like you're operating from a sense of abundance, from a sense of recognizing that you have plenty and that you don't need to take away from others to feel that sense of abundance, to feel that sense of being satisfied that your own needs are met. So it's an aspiration of not taking, of not stealing from others. And this isn't just material things. This could be stealing time from other people by always being late. Or stealing energy from other people by always dominating the conversation. This can manifest in lots and lots of different ways. It could even be stealing from yourself by not giving yourself the opportunity to try something new. So it can manifest in many different ways. The fourth principle is moderation, or paying attention to how you expend your life energy. Being kind of discerning about how you want to give up the time that you have, how you want to give up the energy that you have. Do you want to spend it shopping? Do you want to spend it watching television? Do you want to spend it pursuing sensory pleasures? Or do you have some other way in which you would like to spend your life energy? There's no prescription of how you should. It's just an aspiration to be discerning and to be aware that there's a limited amount of life energy that you have available to you in any given moment, but also in terms of sort of your lifespan. And how do you want to spend it? In pursuit of what? And then the final aspiration is to not be greedy, but instead to operate from a place of generosity. Rather than wanting to hoard more things for yourself, is to give freely, to give openly, to share of your own time, to share of your energy in moderation, to share of your belongings, and not to try to just grasp and cling and hold on to things. So it could also be called non-hoarding. But I like the idea of generosity as the aspiration that is buried in this particular ethical principle. So those are the 5 principles. We will keep repeating those throughout the practice today in the context of them being the expressions of your humanity that create connection and that foster the development and refinement of your own koshas, your own layers of self, and also that of other people. And that's really so important in yoga. There is so much emphasis on community, on sangha, on recognizing how really dependent we are on each other as human beings. And so this is what we will work with today. For our open centering, I invite you to take either a seat or a supine position on your back, or if you had the opportunity to create like this little incline that I showed you earlier, that will be really nice to have. And then if you have a blanket, make a roll out of your blanket like this. And then bring your sacrum to the bottom of your little incline that you created. Bring the soles of your feet together. And then take the blanket roll that you made, drape it across the top of your feet, and wrap it underneath your legs. If you don't have a blanket like this to bring under your legs to support the legs so that they're not overstretching, you could also take a couple of blocks and bring them under the legs like this. Just something to support your thighs so they can fall open, but you're not overstretching the inner thigh muscles, your adductors. And then from here, you would lie back on your support. And if that hyperextends your neck, you might need a little pillow or a blanket or a little towel under your head so that your forehead is higher than your chin. It's just a really slight tuck in the throat rather than, this kind of thing. I will get up from this position to talk you through the open centering, but I invite you to be here or in some position like this that's comfortable. If the open legs don't work for you, you could have your legs stretched long here, or you could have your feet mat width apart and let the knees meet and fall into each other. Just creating a little bit of a slope here in your torso allows the breath to flow more freely into the abdomen. And so I invite you to find your spot, your comfort in a supine position of some sort. And then if it feels appropriate for you, I invite you to close your eyes. You might also choose to keep them at half mast, sort of a downcast gaze. That's nice and soft. And then I invite you to draw your attention into the body. And to invite your body to become heavy, to ground into the earth, to really find that connection to the ground. Maybe even to have a sense of growing roots into the earth, and through those roots connecting yourself to this virtual community that we've created together this evening. And check in with your body for a moment here. To see if there's a place in your body that needs a little bit more care, a little bit more peacefulness, a little bit more non-violence. So maybe a better support under the legs or the head or the arms, so that you feel as though you're really compassionately inviting the body to settle into this moment. Being honest with your appraisal of what might be most auspicious for you as you're lying back. And then keeping your body in loving awareness, draw your attention to the breath. And perhaps begin to notice how the breath connects with your body. Maybe noticing the connection in the rising and falling of the belly as breath travels in and out. Maybe noticing the connection between breath and body as your diaphragm moves downward to create a sense of space in the lungs that allows the air to travel in. And then as the diaphragm relaxes back toward the lungs to support the outflow of breath. Maybe you feel the connection between breath and body as the coolness of air traveling in through the throat and the warmth of air as it travels out. Or maybe for you, the most vivid connection of body and breath is the sharing of energy. It's the breath that enlivens the body. It's the breath that enervates the body, that makes it come alive with vibration, sensation. And so pay attention to this connection. And then hold breath and body in your awareness as you draw your attention to your mind. Noticing how the mind is joining this connection of breath and body, maybe through observing with curiosity how breath and body coordinate. Or maybe with a little chatter about not understanding this concept, or maybe with a story about how this has or hasn't worked for you in the past. The mind will make its own contribution to this connection, and so just notice how the mind is chiming into this conversation between the body, the breath, and the mind. And And if the mind is telling a story of criticism or judgment, can you invite the mind to become kind, to become compassionate, to join the connection, to join the conversation with honesty, with generosity. Just explore what's possible and stay open to any possibility about how the connection between body, breath, and mind might unfold. And then as you continue to lie here, watching breath, body, and mind, you might want to invite a gentle sound as you breathe by slightly toning the back of the throat to create a sound like the sound of the ocean or the sound when you fog a mirror and yet without opening the mouth. It's creating a breath that's slightly audible to you. If there were other people in the room with you, they wouldn't necessarily hear this sound. This sound will happen more within your own physical experience. And then notice if creating that sound invites the mind to be a bit more captivated by the breath, a bit more present. Maybe notice how creating that tone in the back of the throat and creating the sound in the breath vibrates through the body. Does it change how breath and body connect? It might be a more tangible sense of vibration in the body linked to the movement of the breath. Making this slight sound in your breath can be a nice way of calling the mind to attention. And so I invite you to experiment with this, not just right now, but also throughout the rest of our practice, whenever you feel like you're losing your focus. You might come back to creating this ocean-like sound in your breath. This gentle vibration that creates a connection across all of your layers. With or without sound, take maybe 2 to 4 more cycles of breath. And then before you move anywhere, in your mind, plot out a journey for rising to a seat. And so if you're placed on your bolster, you might roll to your right, still on the bolster, or you might choose to roll off the bolster. Plan how you will do this to keep yourself protected and safe and supported. And whenever you feel ready, begin that journey first to your right side and then ultimately to a seat where we will all meet. And once you have found your seat, you can rest your hands on your thighs, or you can rest them in your lap, or you can bring your palms together at your heart. And I invite you to bow your head to heart center and tune in yet again to this connection that exists between mind, body, breath, and this virtual community, as well as anyone else who is supported by the same earth that we're sitting on in this moment. And from that sense of connection, invite an intention for your time on the mat today. This might be a simple word or a phrase. And if an intention arose for you that feels appropriate for this moment, then with an inhalation, seal it into your heart. And with an exhalation, send it out into your world. And then release your hands. Open your eyes if they were closed. And lift your focus. And find yourself yet again in a nice seat. And then, this will sound really funny, but connect yourself visually to your right foot. And as usual, I am noticing that my right foot's pretty dirty because I was outside right before I came in. And then connect yourself physically to your foot. We don't often connect to our feet, and so see how you can take a seat here so that you can actually touch your foot. And then just give yourself a really gentle massage on the bottom of your foot. Doesn't have to be professional, right? It's just a gentle massaging to connect yourself to this place on your body that connects to the earth most of the time. This place that we take so much for granted to carry us through our day, that we stick in shoes most of the time and confine it with not a lot of compassion. And so for just a moment, extend some loving kindness to your foot by massaging them and staying connected to this part of your body. And then put your foot on the floor in front of you and take your fingers and thread them between your toes, creating a little bit of space between all of the toes. Like this. This may be tough for some of you. The toes are really codependent and really stuck together. And so just see what it's like. And give it a little squeeze. Fingers squeezing the toes, and then toes squeezing the fingers. And just connect yourself to this part of your body that's so often neglected. Tuning in to the sensations in your toes and fingers as they connect here. Making a little dance out of this, maybe having some fun with this, right? Little kids do this all the time. They connect their feet to their hands all the time. As adults, we don't do this very often. And so maybe just play with this a little bit with an open one. And then you can release the fingers from between the toes. Hang on to your leg and give your ankle just a couple of circles in one direction, a few circles in the other direction. I don't know if you could hear my clicking right now. I don't know if anybody else has clicky ankles, but mine are making noise right now. And then release that foot and change sides. Start by first connecting visually to your other foot, just looking at your foot, looking at this amazing part of your body that connects you to this earth, that allows you to walk, to feel grounded, and then gently begin to massage the bottom of that foot. And there's like no specific technique or anything like that. It's really just a playful way to connecting to a part of you that you probably don't take a lot of time connecting to, right? Like, when's the last time you massaged your feet? Invite your mind to stay fully present for this little generosity that you're extending to your feet. And maybe notice with some honesty whether the mind is making little judgments of what does this have to do with yoga, what's good yoga. And then place the foot in front of you and then use your other hand to thread your fingers between your toes. And just noticing if on this foot the toes are more or less codependent or equally so as you create this little connection. I hope you can see this on my video. I'm trying to show you. Then squeeze the fingers into the toes and then squeeze the toes into the fingers and just really feel that connection. And let this be sort of a symbolism of the connection we have with everything. We may not notice it, but we're always connected. We just need to take a moment to really pay attention and to create that connection. And then go ahead and hug your leg in with your arm and make circles in one direction and in the other direction, just to wake up that part of you. And then release that foot down. And if you have props on your mat, I invite you to remove those at this point. Keeping a couple of blocks handy at the top of the mat, either at the highest height or the medium height, but probably not the lowest for now. We can lower them later. And come to standing. And as you come to standing here, tune into your feet for a moment. Maybe take them in visually. And just notice if that little bit of attention that you gave them made a difference in how you experience your feet right now and how you notice your feet. And then think about, why are you not giving your feet more attention? Why are you stealing your attention from your feet? So anyway, from here we will explore a forward fold. And so there's a hinge in your body. It's called your hip joint. That is the most auspicious way of coming into a forward fold. So I invite you for a moment to bring your fingertips into your hip creases and then to press into the hip creases and to notice what this does to your pelvis. What it basically creates is this rolling forward of the pelvis over the head of the femur. And this is a really healthy way of moving your body forward in space. You're very connected here in a non-harming way to your physical being because you're using the resources in your body wisely to create this forward fold. If you are forward folded right now, come back up and then do it one more time, taking the fingertips in the hip creases and prompting yourself forward with kindness. And then with truthfulness, decide whether the hamstrings allow your legs to be straight here, if the knees can be extended here, or if you need a little bit of a fold in the knees to feel comfort in the low back. So not sacrificing the low back for straight legs, right? Sometimes we work with an amount of violence that we're not even aware of, right? Where we sacrifice an outer or an inner experience of comfort and ease for an outer expression of a pose. And so just notice from the inside out, what is best here for your hamstring and your low back, because they are connected, to create a nice neutral curve in your spine here and ease in the hamstrings. And then bring the hands to the blocks to be in a half lift. From here, and there's no weight in the hands, you're just stabilizing your stance. You're just providing a little support. From here, with an inhalation, you're going to come into a modified version of a cow pose by inhaling, bending the knees, and letting the belly expand. It's almost like a version of cow or chair combination. And then when you exhale, come into a rounding here That's kind of like a cat position, like a cat arch, but you're standing. And then we'll flow through this a few times. Inhaling into this chair cow variation, and then exhaling into this cat forward fold variation. And see if you can move truthfully within your range of motion, not over-efforting, but also not under-efforting, not depriving yourself of healthful expression of the pose. And at the same time practicing moderation, non-violence, truthfulness. We often think that these ethical principles or aspirations just apply to relationships, but they also apply to the relationship you have with your body. And so let them find expression in the choices you make about how you move through space in your body in this moment. We'll flow 2 more times. This is 1. And then after your next cat, release into your version of a forward fold right now. And so maybe your hands stay on the blocks. Maybe you have a slight bend in the knees. Or maybe your hands can descend a little bit more because your hammies have opened up. Notice, and without expectation, invite your honest and truthful expression of a forward fold. You might even close your eyes and really just notice from the inside out. What is honest for you here? What is non-violent? And what is non-stealing in the sense that you are moving into the pose with an open and full heart. Giving your hamstrings an opportunity to stretch. And you're doing so within that appropriate range of motion that honors your safety and that's peaceful, that's non-harming. Then with your next inhalation, float back to your half lift. Hands come back to the block. And notice how beautifully you can connect your forward fold and your half lift and flow through this a few times. Maybe exhaling as you move forward, enjoying that connection between the 2 postures. And lifting up as you inhale. Finding joy in creating connection between postures rather than finding joy in the poses themselves, or in addition to. It's not that I'm saying you can't have joy in the posture. And yet, today our focus is on how we connect postures to each other. And so really feel this as you flow back and forth a couple more times, letting the breath guide you and letting truth and non-harming guide you. And then find your half lift yet again. I'm going to change sides, maybe escape the sun a little bit so you can see me better. Oh, but then I'm on the wrong side. Okay, never mind. And then go ahead and step your right foot to the inside of the right brick. I'm moving my left one just so you can see what I'm doing. And then you can set both bricks down, of course. There's no weight in the hands here, or very little. It's just like in your half lift. You're just giving yourself a sense of support here as you come into this lunge position. And so in the lunge position, a non-harming way of aligning the body is to really ground through the feet, the forward foot and the back toes. Minimal grounding through the fingers, just creating some stability. Then you're creating stability through the core by drawing the belly in, drawing the pelvic floor in, drawing the shoulder blades down the back so that you feel very sturdy here and supported. And then notice if you are grasping for something by opening the hips like this, and if you are, zip it up. Draw that forward hip femur back and invite the back femur to come forward so that your hips are level side to side. And then just notice how this particular shape reverberates in your body and what you can do to make it easeful, non-harming. Maybe your desire is for your back knee to be on the ground. Maybe you want your hand flat on the block. Just notice what's the truthful expression of this posture for you. And breathe here, wherever you are, whether you're on the knee or whether you're lifted. Now, because we are working with connection, we are going to connect this lunge to plank pose. And so at the end of your next exhalation, begin a conscious inhalation. Let that lift your hips a little bit and let that propel the right leg back so that you're on blocks in plank pose. Create grounding. Now you have some weight in your hands. And so if it's too acute of an angle for your wrist, you can move back a little bit and make that a less acute angle. And ground through the toes. Create stability in the belly and create lift in the pose. And then let's reconnect this posture to your lunge. At the end of your next exhalation, with an inhalation, step the right foot forward to the block again. Doesn't have to be a single step. Could be 5 steps, could be 10 steps, whatever it takes. And you can be on your knee the entire time, right? So at the end of your next exhalation, inhale and step, plank pose. This is as beautiful of a plank pose as a plank pose with the knees lifted. So work with truthfulness, with non-harming. What is appropriate for your body? Which kind of plank pose would you like to express right now? At the next exhalation, prepare. And as you inhale, step back to your lunge on the knee or knee lifted. I promise we'll only do this one more time on this side. So with your next inhalation, step back, enjoy the movement between postures, enjoy the connection. At the end of your next exhalation, with the inhale, step lightly, lunge, beautiful. Then from here, with your next inhalation, step the back foot forward and come once again into a forward fold. You might close your eyes for a moment to sense your breath here. Noticing how that little switching from lunging to planking affected your body. And before we do the next side, sort of with some truthfulness and honesty, assess if there's something you would like to do differently. And then with your next inhalation, step the right foot back. Lunge on the other side. Same idea, ground through the feet. Very little weight in the hands. They're really just here to give you some balance. So that way you give your wrists a chance to recover, right, from the plank. Draw the back femur forward, forward femur back to create nice level hips side to side. Exhale fully, and with the inhalation, step the left foot back to come to plank. You can again be on your knees. Work with honesty. Work non-harmingly, without greed, right? Without greed for wanting this lifted expression of plank. Exhale, and with the inhale, step forward. Really feeling the connection between the poses. Feeling that sort of web of life that expresses itself in this flow. Exhale, inhale, step back. Hold for a breath or two, whatever works for you. Again, you can be on the knees. Exhale, inhale, step lightly, lovingly. Exhale, inhale, step, plank pose. Last time, exhale, connect to the lunge. Sweet. From here, with your next inhalation, once again, step forward, and this time, find your half lift. And breathe. Maybe closing the eyes, reconnecting to the breath. Reconnecting to the mind. Is there a different story in the mind now that we've exerted ourselves a little bit, that we've created some challenge? However peacefully, the mind might have a story here for you, and so just be attuned to it. From here, move your blocks so that they're flat on the ground at the lowest setting. If this turns out to be too low for you, you can always bring a second block under it. I just encourage you not to use the blocks like this because they'll be a little unstable, and we want them to be stable for our next flow. From here, from your forward fold, and you can be, really bent in the knees here. Again, being truthful about what's happening in your hamstrings and in your low back. Step back to plank pose. You now know how to do this. You know how to connect these movements to each other. And then we'll take the next transition on the knees first before we do it lifted or with the option of being lifted. Move your blocks far enough apart that your shoulders fit in between. You'll have to estimate this. You'll be pretty close. And then from here, the connection is again via the breath. This time we move with the exhalation. As you exhale, bend the elbows back and in. So not letting them splay out, but back and in as you lower yourself down with honesty. Maybe your movement is quick and gives into gravity right now. Maybe movement is slow. Once you're on the ground, walk the hips away from the shoulders to create length in the spine. Connect yourself to the earth. Connect to your breath. Connect to any chatter you might have in the mind right now. Now the fun begins. Curl your toes under. This will stay on the ground. And press into the hand to reverse out of your prone position back to your plank position. If this felt like a lot of lifting and lowering and it was really hard for you, you can take a blanket and you can bring it under hips. If you're not sure, just try it and see which is more truthful and more non-harming for you. Again, not greedily reaching for a particular expression of this connection, but just exploring. So try it if you want. And with an exhalation, once again, lower yourself to the earth, to a fully prone position. Curl the toes under, the knees can stay on the ground as you press back up into plank. Maybe this time you notice my knees just wanted to pop up, so that's my truth right now, so I will practice it. So if you would like to do this as well, you can then move from plank through chaturanga to the ground here. As you exhale, lowering down, nice and controlled, nice and honest, with or against gravity, your choice, and relax once you're at the bottom. You could even let your shoulders relax onto the blocks here. You can give your wrists a little break by bringing the arms behind you, maybe making little circles, maybe shaking the wrists out. Non-harming is the first aspiration, first of the principle. So explore that here. And then one more time, transitioning through chaturanga, the reverse now, all the way to plank as you press up and hold here. All right. From here, if you want your blanket, keep it. If you didn't need it, you can slide it aside before we release through chaturanga, yet again to the ground. Making a nice connection between your plank pose, your chaturanga, and now a slight back bend. But before we move here, just check in with yourself. Do you want to walk your hips away from your shoulders a little bit to create a more auspicious length in the spine? And then ground through the legs, ground through the nails on your toes. Contract your glutes. You could grab them, I suppose, but it's probably more effective if you engage them. Press the pubic bone into the ground and come into a very slight back bend. You can move your bricks for a moment. You could even bring the hands behind you. You could hover the hands and just connect the lift and the lowering. Maybe relaxing to the ground for a moment, if that's your truth right now, your peaceful expression of what needs to happen for you. And then engaging yet again, grounding through the legs, pressing the pubic bone down, and then lifting up any amount that feels appropriate for you. You might, if you would like, press into the hands a bit to maybe come up a little bit higher into this expression of cobra or sphinx, whatever is appropriate for you. And then lowering down, being more interested in connecting this resting pose, this prone resting pose, to a slight back bend. Maybe your back bend is right here on your forearms, sphinx pose. Maybe from here, you want to press up a little bit. Notice your own truth. What is your flow? What is your back bend? What is your expression here? And then reconnect yourself to the earth. Coming back to your resting pose, maybe resting on the other cheek if you've been turning your head to one side to rest. And then ground yourself yet again and press, exploring your own limits, working with moderation, working without greed, to see how far your body wants to go here. Maybe you're pressing all the way to an upward facing dog, where you're making contact just through the palms of the hands and the tops of the feet. Or maybe you're on your knees. Or maybe you're in a high cobra. Or maybe you're in a sphinx pose. Work with truthfulness. What is your back bend in this moment? Release down one more time, hands to the sides of the chest. Press yourself up and toward a child's pose. Taking a breath as you're connecting to this next shape. Exploring any feedback you're getting from your mind and your breath. Your breath will tell you if you're exerting in an auspicious way or if you're over or underdoing. Come forward one more time into your expression of a back bend. Connecting this variation of child's pose and this variation of cobra pose that fits your body in this moment. Truthfully, peacefully. non-greedily. We'll do that transition one more time. Connecting now child's pose to your version of a prone back bend. And then yet again, flowing back toward a child's pose, never fully really getting there. And then curl your toes under. And from this child's pose now, transition to the next shape by lifting the hips up. No expectations in your mind about whether your knees will be bent or straight here. Let that happen from the inside out as you explore your truth of this position in this moment. Maybe you're walking your legs out, walking your dog here, bending one knee at a time to see what is peaceful for your hamstrings, for your low back, and how this particular shape reverberates as you move fluidly, walking your dog. With your next exhalation, let the knees come to the ground and once again come into your variation of child's pose. Maybe the head moves to the ground, maybe it doesn't. It's not about the outer expression of this, it's about the inner experience of a child's pose that allows your body, your breath, and your mind to come together. Uniting maybe with your inner wisdom about what the most auspicious expression of this pose is for you in this moment. And then lifting forward again and yet again pressing the hips up to flow into a down dog. And then in down dog, explore. How can you make down dog auspicious for your body in this moment? Maybe your down dog is puppy. Right? And this is your most honest and peaceful expression of down dog. Maybe your down dog has bent knees. Maybe your down dog likes to walk and move. Or maybe your down dog has extended knees but floating heels. Play with this. Enjoy this. Notice what unifies your experience in such a way that it feels joyful. And now, at the end of your next exhalation, using that inhalation energy that we used earlier, step the right foot forward to come back into a lunge. You can come back to your blocks. And then with after your next exhalation, with the energy of the inhalation, step forward. This is familiar territory by now. Come into your half lift as you're still inhaling, and then exhale yet again into your version of forward fold. Inhale one more time to a half lift. Exhale and fold. Your version of a forward fold, your truth. Hands to the back of the hips. Take another breath, and then with your next inhalation, using that auspicious forward fold hinge called the hip joint, bring yourself back to standing and let the palms come to rest at your heart. Connect to your own sense of energy. Connect to the flow of breath, of life force as it moves through your body. Maybe you're feeling your heartbeat at your thumbs. Or maybe a tingling in your fingers and toes. Or maybe you can feel your heartbeat in the back of your body right now. Just notice. Connect yourself to your own experience. And perhaps notice how, with time and attention, your heartbeat re-regulates itself. It slows itself down, adapting to the changes in demand, physically, emotionally, affectively. And with your next exhalation, release your hands to your side. Okay, now we will put all of this together, and remember, our focus is on working truthfully, peacefully, without greed, with moderation. And so you decide which variations you take, whether you're working with or without blocks. And when we put all of this together, we're actually creating a sun salute. And so that's where we're headed. And I'll talk us through the first few, and then we'll take some in silence too. And so have your blocks handy in case you want to use them. Choosing your height. And perhaps start with your hands at your heart. With an exhalation, release them to your side. And then inhale them up. Exhale and draw the fingertips to your hip creases to fold forward into a half lift. Breathe in here, and then as you exhale, release into your truth of a forward fold, making decisions about how to place your hands, whether to bend your knees. Inhale back to your half lift. Right foot inside the right brick, left foot steps back to a lunge. Your decision about whether you're on your knees and how much weight you want to have in your hands. Take a breath or two here. This first time around, we'll take extra breaths at each station. And then ground the hands. And with an inhalation and the energy that brings to your body, step the right foot back to your plank pose. Find stability in plank. Find your truth. Knees, no knees. Your decision. The next time you exhale, lower yourself to the ground. Chaturanga. Your decision about how quickly you do this. After a breath and some recovery, walk your hips away from the shoulders and find your expression here of a back bend. Sphinx, cobra, upward dog, whatever is your truth in this moment. Whatever feels moderate and not greedy. Truthful and not harming. And then come into your variation of child's pose. Take a full breath here as you curl the toes under, and then with your next inhalation, lift the hips to your truth of downward dog. Remember, you can also have the knees on the ground and be in puppy. A baby dog's pretty cute, so don't be attached to having lifted knees in this down dog. Maybe you walk it out, maybe the knees are bent, whatever feels right. At the end of your next exhalation, and with the energy of the inhalation, step the left foot forward. Lunge on the other side. Take an extra breath here. Exhale fully, and with the energy of the inhalation, step the right foot to the left. And then exhale into your truth. of a forward fold. Bring the hands to the hips, elbows pointing up and moving toward each other. With your next inhalation, rise. Exhale the hands to the heart. And once again, take a moment to look inward, to feel your heartbeat, your breath. Tune into any chatter in your mind. And invite the mind to be fully present for this moment. Feeling the breath, feeling the body, sensing what is present in your nervous system. And observing your deep inner wisdom, which right now is inviting your heartbeat to re-regulate, your breath to become smooth, your body to release unnecessary effort, and your mind to be settled. As you exhale, release the hands. As you inhale, bring the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Half lift as you inhale. And step back. Oops. Right foot back, left foot forward for our sequence on the other side. Assemble yourself truthfully in your plank pose, in your lunge pose. And then at the end of the exhalation, with the inhalation, step to plank. Extra breath here. As you exhale, lower down. Your variation of a back bend. You can even keep the blocks under your hands like I'm showing. Keeping a nice open heart here. And then finding your variation of child's pose, curling the toes under, finding your downward dog, either with or without blocks. One more breath in down dog. After your next exhalation, with the lift of the inhale, step the right foot forward, lunge, left foot forward, and fold. Hands to the hips. Rise as you inhale. Exhale, hands to heart. One breath. Exhale, the hands down. I will do this on the other side now, in case that's a different visual. As we repeat this sequence yet again, I will talk us through the first flow on one side, and then I won't talk the second time around, so that you can have your own experience. Inhale the arms up. Exhale and fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, and then inhale, step back, lunge. At the end of the exhale, with the inhalation, step back, plank. With your next exhalation, release chaturanga to the floor. With your inhalation, rise to your expression of a back bend. With your next inhalation, find your variation of child's pose. Curl the toes under. With the next inhalation, lift the hips, your truth of downward dog. Exhale fully, and as you inhale, left foot floats forward. One. With the next inhalation, right foot joins the left, and then fold as you exhale. Hands to the hips. Wait for your inhalation to rise up. Exhale, hands to heart. One breath. With your next exhalation, release the hands to the side. Inhale them up. Exhale, float forward. Inhale, half lift. Exhale. Inhale, lunge, right foot back. Exhale fully, inhale, plank. Full breath here. With your next exhalation, chaturanga all the way to the ground. Make yourself long, and then with an inhalation, find your back bend. Move to your truth of a child's pose. Curl the toes under, and as you inhale next, lift into a down dog. Once you have exhaled fully, inhale the right foot forward. Lunge. With the next inhalation, left foot joins the right. Fold. Hands to the hips. Inhale. Exhale. Hands to the heart. If it feels appropriate and safe, close your eyes. Connect to your own energy. Feel the breath in the body. Invite the mind to join the conversation. And observe your inner wisdom as your nervous system re-regulates itself here. Reflect on this flow. Reflect on how it felt to connect the different shapes with honesty, with truthfulness, peacefully, non-violently, expressing your inner truth without greed. With moderation, and without stealing from yourself the opportunity to try something different. With your next out breath, Release your hands. Inhale. Exhale and fold. Walk your feet mat width apart. And come to a squat. And then decide with honesty whether you want to set your bum down without the use of your hands, or whether you want to have the support of your hands to bring your bum to the ground gently. If you have props on your mat behind you, remove them, and go ahead and make sure that you have a blanket handy, so that as we move into Shavasana, you don't have to hunt for props, because once we're on our back, it's nice to be able to just stay there. So have that available. And then roll your way down, either walking yourself down with your hands or rolling yourself down with your inner strength. Your choice. From here, draw the knees in for a moment and give yourself a little hug, really connecting the knees toward your chest. Maybe they'll touch, maybe they won't. It can be a virtual connection, just like we're virtually connected. We can't really touch, but we're still together. So if the thighs are hovering away from the chest, that's totally okay. And then release the feet again to the mat width apart, and windshield wiper both knees to the left and then to the right, finding your own rhythm, your own truth of this movement. Maybe you want to linger on one side for a few breaths, or maybe you want to move with the breath, rising as you inhale and lowering as you exhale. Your choice. Wiping the slate clean here, like a windshield wiper, clearing any fuzz out of the mind, clearing any hitches or glitches from the breath, and maybe clearing little tweaks in the low back that may have crept in during your sun salute. And then from here, if you would like, you can clasp your feet and just take a moment to be a happy baby here, rolling around on your back, finding the joy of this moment, the joy of having experienced connection across all of your layers, across this community. And notice if there are any other little movements your body wants to make, invite those, let them unfold. And then when you are ready, release yourself into your Shavasana position. Maybe bringing a blanket under the head, maybe bringing a rolled blanket under the knees if you tend to have low back challenges. Again, settling yourself in with truth, with non-violence, not greeting for any particular expression of that Shavasana position, and not stealing from yourself comfort for your body and comfort for your breath. And so find a pose that brings you ease. And then invite your body to relax and release. If it feels appropriate, you might choose to close the eyes, or you can bring them to a downward gaze. And as the body relaxes and releases here, invite the breath to do the same. Invite the breath to become soft and gentle. And as the breath relaxes and releases, invite the mind to follow suit. Noticing if there is chatter, if there are thoughts or plans or judgments, and just letting them drift by like clouds in the sky, knowing you do not have to continue to observe them or chase them away. They will do their thing. Invite your entire being, every part of you, every layer of you, to settle into this moment. To settle into this earth. To settle into the ground beneath you. Invite yourself to fully feel that integration of your body, your breath, your mind, your wisdom. And then imagine yourself growing roots into the earth. Reaching deep into the ground. Roots that are nurtured by the ground beneath you. And imagine these roots reaching through the earth to your loved ones. Finding the roots of your loved ones as they too are nurtured by this earth. Imagine your root system and their root system connecting, intertwining, supporting each other, nurturing each other, creating grounding and stability for one another. And then imagine your joint root systems growing outwards to reach the root systems of your greater community. More roots meeting, connecting, supporting and nurturing one another. More exchange of information, exchange of caring, of kindness. More mutual support, abundance and generosity. And then imagine the root systems of your community growing to meet the root systems of each other's communities, of everyone who is in this virtual community. Connect your root systems to one another. Fully experience the connection of shared wisdom, shared experience, shared kindness, shared generosity and abundance, a peaceful intermingling many communities that serve to nurture every fiber of your being. That serve to support your body, that bring energy to your breath, that bring wisdom to your mind, and that bring joy to your life. No matter how it might feel in any single moment, these connections are always present. These supports, the nurturance, the caring. They are yours to tap into as you let your roots grow outward infinitely, trustingly, peacefully, and lovingly. From this experience of connection, I invite you into a few minutes of silence. Gently invite your senses to draw outward. as you hear the sounds around you, as you feel the earth beneath you and the air on your skin. Maybe taking in any aromas or scents in your room. Maybe even blinking the eyes open to take in your environment visually. If it feels appropriate, invite a nice, deep, conscious breath in and out. As you gently begin to move your body, maybe little wiggles or stretches, maybe larger movements. Let your wise self guide you. Gently reawakening your body, reawakening the breath. And whenever you feel ready and in your own way, begin to transition yourself to a seat. Maybe rolling to your right side to breathe there for a couple of breaths. Or any other transition that feels auspicious and appropriate to your energy, to your body. And once you have arrived at a seat, choose a conscious placement of your hands. If you're feeling introspective, maybe you're laying your palms on your legs. If you need inspiration, maybe the palms face up. Or if you want to return to a sense of connection, draw the palms together at your heart. I invite you to bow your head to your heart center, connecting yourself one more time across all of your layers, your embodied self, your affective, energetic self, your mental and emotional self, your de-centered, wise, intuitive self, and perhaps most of all, your joyful and connected self that ties you to this amazing virtual community. It's an honor and a pleasure to share this practice with you. Thank you for joining me. Take good care. Thank you so much.